Now that you can find the basic percentage of total numbers and that sort of thing, let's introduce you to the world of simple interest. And interest is terrifying and awesome at the same time, depending on what type of problem you're working on and if it applies to your real world life there. If you can calculate simple interest, then a lot of times you can calculate the interest that your savings account will get. So that would actually be great because you can see how much money you're making. But if you're maybe taking a loan from parents or something like that and they tack on simple interest, then it gets a little scary because you see how much extra money you're going to pay that you may not have realized. So we need to use this formula right here. And I changed this to look like a different type of capital I. That way you're not mistaking it for a 1. But it's interest equals the principal times the rate times the time. And so we've got 3 numbers that we're just going to be multiplying together here. Okay? And once you do that, you'll figure out how much interest you're going to have to be paying on something or how much interest you've earned. I equals the interest or the amount charged or amount earned, depending on what the scenario is. Principal, that's just the amount that you borrowed or the amount that you put into your savings account. The rate is going to be your interest percent every year, and the time is going to be in the number of years. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this situation here. Donnie went ahead and borrowed $16,000 from his parents to buy a truck. Okay? So he's loving it. He went ahead and didn't have the money to buy the truck, so he borrowed it from his parents. And we want to know how much interest did he pay. Okay, he had to pay an 8% simple interest for 4 years, so it's going to take him 4 years to pay this back. But his parents are going to get 8% back on that. So let's do this. I equals P times the R times the T. That was our formula, okay, for simple interest. If we figure out what I is, then we'll know how much he paid. So let's go plug in what we do know. How much did he borrow? He borrowed $16,000. So that's going to be the principal, $16,000. Now, what was his percentage? 8%. Go ahead and flip that into a decimal. And then how many years did he borrow it for? 4 years? Okay. So now all we have to do is multiply those 3 numbers together, and it doesn't take long to type that into the calculator. And you come up with this number. He paid an interest of $5,120. So this $16,000 truck basically just cost him $21,120 because he paid back every penny to his parents plus an extra 5 grand. So he's probably thinking that they're the best parents in the world, but they just literally cost him an extra $5,000 on that truck. Now, granted, Donnie could have just saved up his money and paid the $16,000, but it might have taken him 3 years or so to do that. So Donnie's pretty happy, and his parents got $5,120 back. Now, here's the other scenario that I was talking to you about. It's not always about earning. Um, it's not always about borrowing. It can also be about earning money using interest. Let's flip that back so that way we can actually see what we're supposed to see there. There we go. And Diego put $500 into his savings account. It seems like he's earning almost no interest at 2%, but sadly, that's really good for savings account nowadays in banks. And he's not going to touch it for 30 years. He's not going to add in anything else to the savings account. So let's just say he was 18 years old and he put in $500. Okay. So, and he's wanting to know, well, how much money will I earn after 30 years? Well, his principal is the $500. That's the amount he deposited. Okay. The rate, the R, is going to be his percent. So that's 2%, so it's going to be times it. How do we times 2% to $500? Well, we turn it into a decimal, so we just write it as 0.02. Remember, it's the same thing. And then we Multiply that by the time. How many years did it sit in there? For 30 years. So when he's 48 years old, let's see how much extra money he has. 500 times 0.02 times 30 gives us the answer of $300. Now that doesn't mean that it shrank. No, no. What that means is he got $300 extra on top of the 500. So 30 years later, he's done absolutely nothing, and his $500 has transformed itself into $800. Not bad considering he did absolutely nothing. Um, let's do one last problem, and let's have it being a borrowing problem again. So that way you can see that sometimes interest is not a good thing. Jenny really wants to buy a plane ticket to go somewhere, and so she begs her friends, please, 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 give me the money, I'll pay it back, please, 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 please. They know Jenny's not always paid things back, so they went ahead and said, look, this is a lot of money. We're going to give you $1,200, okay? But we want 10% interest on it, and we'll give you 3 years to pay it back, but you've got to pay it back. And I'm sorry, that's not Jenny, it's Jerry. So Jerry, being irresponsible, goes ahead and says, okay, well, how much interest is he going to be paying? Let's figure that out first. So here we go. Here is our easy formula. He borrowed $1,200. He has a 10% interest rate. And the T is for time, and he's going to pay this back in 3 years. So we just run that through our calculator, 1,200 times 0.10 times 3. And turns out it's $360 interest, because that's what the I stands for. So how much total does the plane ticket really cost Jerry? Let's see. The friends gave him $1,200, so it definitely cost him that much. And then he's going to take 3 years to pay it back, and that means he's going to have $360 interest. So really, this whole trip is going to cost him $1,560 total. And this is just simple interest, gang. If we start looking at interest compounded monthly for credit cards, this would be nothing. So you want to be careful with interest. It's a very powerful thing. When you're looking at these problems, make sure you understand exactly what they're looking for. Are they looking just for the interest? Like for Diego's problem, how much interest has Diego earned? It was $300. If they said how much money is in Diego's savings account, if he did not touch it for 30 years, we would add the interest onto the $500, right? And then that would be $100. And up here, they didn't ask him how much did his total truck, you know, cost him. They just said how much interest did he have to pay his parents? Well, the interest is just $5,120. If they said how much the truck really cost them, you'd be adding these two amounts together, the original amount of the loan plus the interest. So again, just read the problem carefully and you should be okay.